Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome to the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. Little bit of a real estate reality check today.
Yeah.
So we are always talking about downsizing and getting, the home ready for moving on to that next stage. And today we're just going to talk about what that means with the real estate of that property, what to do to get ready, what not to do, kind of talking through those projects.
Yeah, I'm Jody Roscoe.
I'm Heather Fisher.
Yeah, I think we get this question all the time is, what should I be doing? And we are happy to talk to people like a year in advance because I feel like that's just part of the process and needing to know, like, what is it that I should do and what is it that I shouldn't do? Because we don't want you to be spending money on things that won't get you money back when you go to sell the house. So I think it's super, super important to talk to a real estate professional. I'm just going to start with that. We're going to give you lots of tips and stuff today, but I think, having somebody with fresh eyes, that's their job to come and take a look at your house and really see, because we've watched people spend money where they didn't need to, and we just don't want that to happen for you.
Yeah, some updates are for your own enjoyment.
Yeah.
And some updates can bring you that return on investment when you sell. I think the problems come when you don't do them for your enjoyment and then you are getting ready to sell and maybe you're choosing those, your own choices type updates instead of what brings that return on investment, or expecting something will bring you that return that it won't. So we'll talk about the difference between those two and what maybe to do at different times.
Right, exactly. So you can save thousands of dollars of stuff that you don't need to do if you when we have a conversation around what that looks like. But I think the number one thing, is that the myth is that the buyers want everything to be perfect, right? And so it doesn't have to be perfect. I think the number one thing that they need is it to be clean.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. And that's definitely the answer. For any move, this applies, not just a downsizing move. I think in downsizing, some of the factors that come in might be a time frame and the finances and things. So just starting with which projects and starting with clean. Yeah,
I think everybody wants to move into a clean home. Just think about, where do you want to move and what does that look like for you? So, and everybody's kind of idea of clean is different. And when we're saying clean for selling the house, that is things that you just don't think about. We live and, we think we're cleaning and we wipe the countertops and we do all those things. But I'm talking about like making sure all the grates where the, air intake is clean, and all, wiping down all of the baseboards or possibly painting them just because that gives it the really fresh, look, and your fans, things that you just don't clean every day. But when you start looking at properties, like somehow that just pops out, even though that's not what you look at in your daily life, like people feel that.
Yeah, especially as you start moving things, furniture out of the way and packing boxes. In our day-to-day life, we're cleaning around the things that are there. And as soon as you move couches or tables, dressers, there's just dust and things that accumulate no matter how tidy and clean your house is on the day-to-day.
Yeah, that is so true. The other thing is it as neutral as you can make it. And again, I would have a real estate professional come and talk to you. If you need somebody to connect, we need to connect you with somebody. We're happy to do that. So reach out to us. But if you are going to be repainting, then let's repaint it a neutral color. If you don't need to, and the paint still looks okay, then maybe it's okay to leave it. But clean and neutral are probably the number one things, and well maintained. People, if they start to see deferred maintenance, things that haven't been done, things that are broken, even if it's just one or two things that you've lived with forever and you don't even see anymore. I know I've told you this, Mark, fixed our shower head and like 7 years later, I hadn't painted around it again. And so there's nothing wrong with it and it's not even broken, but it looks like we don't care, about the house. And so then people spiral. They start to think, oh my gosh, if they didn't take care of that, then what else have they not taken care of the house? And it's irrational. But if everything is in working order and looks like it's really been taken care of, they just have a much better feeling about the house. And buying a property is very emotional. And so people walk in and make a decision within the first couple seconds of whether they feel like, oh, this could be good or this could be, isn't good. And if the first thing they see is something that is either not clean or feels broken, they already have, the wrong emotional response to the property.
Yeah, closing that loop on a repair is something we see so often, small repairs, but then that finish touch-up paint to fix the spot after you've had, whatever, the faucet or whatever fixed. All of us have been there. I know you've told that story, and I had a similar story at, my previous house, and we all are like that, but you're right. When it's just that one little thing, the amount it would cost you to do it versus the amount a buyer is going to attribute to it in the scope of, oh, this needs so much is, a huge difference.
I think the one I see the most is the roof leaked. They replaced the roof. And so no problem at all with the house, but there's still some kind of water stains in, upstairs bedrooms, or, there's still some kind of water stains from the roof leaking. Maybe it's, somewhere else, or even in the garage ceiling. Like if you see water stains, you're thinking, oh my gosh, this house is, a problem. And even if you've replaced the roof, even if you say right in the paperwork, we replaced the roof, finishing that repair, which is repainting the ceilings, makes all the difference because it just causes people to worry.
Well, yeah, you're taking something you have spent a lot of money on, that new roof, and instantly it's a subtraction instead of an asset to that bottom line on a buyer, because mentally they're like, well, is there a new problem? Are you sure it's dry?
Right.
Are you sure that's old? And
yeah,
relatively small fix.
And most people are like, oh, that's no problem. Like, we fixed the roof, it's fine. And it is fine, but you need to make it just a non-item. Like, you just need to make it where they're not even thinking about the roof. You've got it, it's newer, and you're good to go. So, and I think, honestly, sometimes the smaller repairs are the ones that need done the most. Like, I think those are the ones that make people think, oh gosh, they couldn't even repair the smallest thing. They probably don't repair the big things, which is not true.
Usually,
it's usually not true. But that's just what people think.
Because we live with the small things for ourselves.
Right. We just are like, it's fine. Yeah. So, they won't notice, probably if, the faucet's brushed nickel or if it's polished chrome. It's not like we need to change out every little thing. If all of the finish is worn off of it, they may know, they'll notice that. Again, that looks like maintenance that, things don't get taken care of. But I wouldn't change out fixtures just to be
match
the most
trend.
current color. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if it's well maintained and clean and as neutral as possible from that last choice, that's totally fine.
Yeah. And honestly, it also depends on what price point your house is at. When people are looking in different price points, they have different expectations. So, it's like, do I need to have granite countertops? Well, I mean, I don't know. Are all the comps in your neighborhood have granite countertops and you don't? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great point, because you can also price yourself out of that return by overspending. If you're in a community with all laminate countertops and you go for the highest of the high end, choice, you're not going to get that money back, even though it's a great feature,
right?
In theory.
Right. And mostly people, even if there's some things that are outdated, kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, they will look over that and be like, oh, I can do that, versus looking over things that are broken and not repaired. That makes them feel very nervous about the house. If they can tell that the house has been very well taken care of and it just hasn't really been updated, then that's a different feeling than if it feels like it just hasn't been taken care of.
Yeah.
And that also goes for outside, like Are the plants all overgrown? Does it feel, just have somebody maybe come and trim that up, or lay some mulch, or, clean out the weeds, whatever that looks like, because that can also, and it's their first impression when they walk up and they're standing there waiting for the door to be opened.
Yeah, that first impression curb appeal and that front porch
Yeah.
really sets the tone as to whether people are going to be adding, value to every step of the tour from that moment forward, or if it's already a subtraction list and they're going to just be dinging it each step through. I looked up an interesting study. It was from some information that Zillow pulled, but they did a study analyzing more than 135,000 home sale photos, and they found that homes with black front doors sold for $6,499 more than expected on the estimate before going, compared with similar homes that had different colored front doors.
That is crazy.
So if we're talking about updates, I would say
Paint your door black.
paint your door, but paint it black maybe if it goes with the rest of it. They found that buyers felt it read timeless and high end and updated but not trendy, and that it photographed really well.
Interesting.
So I think that last tip, that photographing really well is something to think about if you're making choices specifically to go on the market. And again, that's something your real estate agent that we can help you with.
Yeah. So, starting with curb appeal, when somebody comes to your property to take a look at it once you've put it on the market, that's the first thing they see, right? They're pulling up to it. They see the yard, whether it's, in a bunch of clover and leaves, or whatever that is, or whether the yard looks maintained and taken care of. Same with the beds, if the bushes are all overgrown and all of that, that's what they see. And then secondly, as you walk up, often you're arriving with your agent. The agent is now working on getting the door open, right? They have to usually have some kind of lockbox where they get the key out. So they're standing there looking at the front door, waiting for that to happen. So we often say, paint that front door, give it a really fresh look if it's faded, if any of the paint around the trim is peeling, because that can happen, a lot. And honestly, a lot of people don't ever go through their front door.
Yeah.
You just don't even look at it because you drive in your, garage and you go through that. And so go out and take a fresh look at what the whole front of your house looks like. And you may find that your door is faded or there's some peeling paint out there. And honestly, that is some of the best money spent, just because first impressions, they're going to make up their decision about your house in the first few seconds, outside and inside. And it doesn't cost a ton of money to paint the front door or, right around it. And they're definitely going to be spending some time out there looking at it specifically, waiting while the agent opens the door.
I think it's true what Jody said. We go through our front doors
right?
Never. And
there's so many people who don't even have a key. So many people when we go to list their house, they're like, I don't know where the key to the front door is.
Yeah, we were in that boat when we sold in the fall, and I never had a key to it. My husband thought he did, and we didn't really find any key for the front door, so we changed the lock. But standing out there, don't just stand and walk through quickly. Stand, look up. I think cobwebs, if you have any kind of a cover, awning, anything, looking up to those corners for cobwebs and debris and just leaves in the crevices. All of that is so simple to sweep out, power wash, or wash down, wipe down, whatever needs to be done. Because like Jody said, that buyer's going to be standing there with nothing to do for a moment, and their eyes are going to travel the whole area. Yeah. And
the other thing is walk the walk, right? And so often the bushes have grown over the sidewalk partially or halfway, or and so you're squishing around trying to get around the bushes just to walk to the front door. Again, we don't do that ourselves.
Edging
so often.
The grass, if it's overgrown, that width of the sidewalk, if you can gain 8 inches, if you trim both sides,
right?
makes a huge difference.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So curb appeal is super important, and none of that stuff should be tons of, money. You can do it yourself, or you can hire somebody to do some of the landscaping and do some painting. If you have shutters on your house and they're very faded, again, get those painted. It's not a ton of money, and it just really will make the house pop and look fresh.
Yeah. So this is the kind of list that, your agent can help you with, but all of this can be gathered into one, handyman type list, and done all at once. A lot of these small projects that'll just make a big difference.
Yeah. So kitchens and baths are, big, right? So, most of the time I don't tell people to remodel their kitchens and baths if they're, going to sell the property, because it's a big project. You have to manage it. It's going to take time. I mean, if you have a couple years and that's something that you want to live with yourself and enjoy, then okay. You're not going to get 100% return on investment on either of those things. It's high because those are things that are important to people. So it's probably 80, 70, 70% for the bathrooms, maybe 80% for the kitchen or something along those lines. A minor kitchen remodel, and that could potentially be painting the cabinets, replacing dated light fixtures, adding a simple backsplash if you didn't have one or you need to do that. I mean, there are some things that you can update the hardware. Sometimes if you just take the hardware off the cabinets and put new, more updated hardware. But in the end, on most of this, if you spend the money, if you haven't spent the money, you're not going to get that on the price, right?
Yeah.
If you spend the money and you get the same price, why do that? Just take a lower price. Don't, rack your brain. Don't spend the energy. So it's okay because you aren't getting extra money for it, but you also didn't spend the money for it, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like transferring it bucket to bucket, right?
Yeah, and the kitchen's a place where you want to make sure those appliances that you're leaving with the house are in working order. So if there's anything that needs addressed there, that's something to consider, watching for sales or something if you need to replace one of the appliances. But again, you don't want to make choices and create a snowball of either creating a mismatch situation or, making choices that might not be what a buyer would want to do.
Yeah. Because then it's, you're picking things, you're not going to live there. You're picking things that are in your style. And so sometimes it's worth it. Just depends on what it looks like. Again, that's why you need somebody to come and take a look at it. It's hard to just have a global overall do this or don't do this.
It goes back to that point from earlier that the price range of the home dictates some of those choices.
And that it's an emotional decision. So some things that you can do, you can reglaze the tub instead of replacing it, like if you're in the bathroom. And that can, be very fresh looking instead of, remodeling the whole bathroom. You can just reglaze it. Sometimes if you just put a new mirror and new light fixture up and maybe a new faucet, that can, make a big difference without remodeling the whole bathroom. And so there are ways to make it seem a little bit fresher. Caulking, sometimes like the caulking, it needs to be come out because you can't clean it anymore. And if you just have it recaulked, the shower or bathtub, that can make a huge difference.
That was one we did as well before selling our last house. It was an older home and hadn't been done in a while, and we pulled all the old caulk out. I say we. My husband.
We meaning you.
Yes. Honey did that, and it, just did all new caulk, and it does. It changes and freshens everything up, and it was not a big expense. And he did it himself, but you could have someone do that for not
back
not
to the
a lot.
handyman list.
Yeah, back to that handyman list. It's not going to add up that quickly.
Yeah. Paint. So interior paint. Exterior paint, if the house needs to be painted, if it's peeling, in general, if any kind of paint is peeling, that can cause you problems for people who want to get FHA or VA mortgages. So we don't want to have any peeling paint anywhere, including sheds or any kind of outdoor thing on the back. So if there's peeling paint somewhere, that absolutely needs to be addressed. If it's just colors on the inside, I think it's it's a case by case basis, but especially if you're moving out of your property and you're going to be selling it empty, and so then there might be quite a few holes in the walls from, pictures or whatnot, and you had bright colors in the rooms. It may be worth painting, because painting is not expensive. It's probably one of the least expensive things that you can do to make the biggest impact.
Yeah.
And if you had bright colors, they might have made sense in your house with all of your furniture in there,
accessories
and
yeah.
everything. And so that might have been like, oh, that looked great. But when you take all that stuff out, if you're selling your house empty, they don't make sense anymore. And now people just walk in and they're like, whoa, pink, whoa, orange, and it doesn't make sense in their brain because it doesn't have all the decor to go with it. And so then in that case, a neutral, fresh palette, since they have nothing else to look at, now they're looking especially for clean
yeah.
and neutral, and feeling like they can just move in there and it will go with their decor versus yours.
And that's an easier time to get it done all at once and have the house be, a cohesive neutral color, is once you've moved your stuff out.
Yeah.
So if that's something, you're thinking might need done, again, let's talk with your agent and figure out that timeline, because it can be simpler once the house is empty to just have that done as one of the final steps before cleaning.
Yeah, but paint is definitely one of the least expensive things that you can do that makes a huge change in the property.
Yeah,
I think.
Absolutely. And get some advice on the color,
yeah.
for sure, because I know from choosing paint color, the word, choose a neutral, choose a grays, choose a white, whatever those words are.
There's 100 whites.
Thousands. Let's be honest,
yes,
thousands of them.
Yes.
But they all lean differently for different reasons, and
mm-hmm.
a lot has to do with what's your trim already look like, or is that being done too? What's
mm-hmm.
What does your countertops look like? All of it goes together, and it's much can be more complicated than just paint it white. That's popular now,
yeah.
and you don't want to spend that money and have it just be off.
Right. Okay, so flooring, same. Paint has to go with the flooring. So flooring, if the carpet is worn and stained, I usually tell people to replace it, because that's back to feeling clean. And if it's stained in a way that we can't get it clean, then I would replace the carpet. Because it feels yucky.
Yeah. And absolutely, there's lots of advice we can give for each specific house as to that right neutral color, or the tone that buyers are finding current, or that goes well with the other things. You don't want to snowball into one change doesn't match the next change or what you already have existing.
Yeah. And carpeting in the bathrooms, if that's happening, if you're changing it anyways, I would not recarpet the bathrooms, because we see that a lot too. So I would put some kind of an LVP in there, or some kind of,
Yeah, I think that was such a 60s and 70s thing. Mm-hmm. And the house I was in for 20 years had carpet in mm-hmm. the bathrooms when I bought it, and, had to get that replaced.
Yeah,
and
it's hard to clean.
Yeah,
and
for
then
sure.
That feels yucky. So again, it's a case-by-case basis, but if it looks like disrepair, then I would probably do something about that. And that is because, again, like I was saying, buying a property is emotional. So people buy it, they make emotional decisions first, and then they will make rational decisions. But first, they will have an emotional reaction to the house. And if the first reaction is, ew, there's stains all over this carpet, like that is not what you want to have it be the first reaction to the house.
Yeah, for sure. And it just sets the tone of everything they're thinking from that point forward.
Yeah. So
let's talk about some updates that some people, if they haven't talked to anyone yet, might think that they need to do. But these are more the ones that you would do when you have years to enjoy them, and you're doing them for you. Mm-hmm. And you're doing them without that expectation of, this is going to bring me return on investment from a sale.
Yeah.
So these are ones that, if someone's told you, oh, do this, this, and this, let's think that through a little bit more. Over improved kitchens, if you are going to spend 40, 50 or more $1,000 on your kitchen, do that while you are going to live there, enjoy it, upgrade everything that brings you excitement about that kitchen, but not a good spend to get that return on investment. You won't make those correct choices.
Yeah. And, everything starts to get outdated the minute you do it. And so think about how long it is you're going to live there. And if you're going to live there for, 5 years or more, just do it the way that you want it and live with it and enjoy it. And, I would say, know that the more that you make it to your taste and not neutral, the more that might be a little bit of a problem when you're going to sell the property. But if you're going to spend, a decent amount of years there, then just do what you love. And you can also do things that are neutral and then add your own style to it. I wouldn't necessarily make the countertops be the color or, So you can do things that you can put wallpaper up that could be taken down easily versus something that is, more
a permanent
permanent
fixture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would make the more permanent things more neutral if you're changing it. But don't feel like if I redo my kitchen, then I'm going to get every last dollar out of it when I sell the property.
Yeah, absolutely. Bedrooms, keeping them as counting as a bedroom is important if you're doing remodels. Keeping that egress and closet and whatever made them an actual bedroom count. If you're switching it to a different function, just have it be something that can be easily still a bedroom for the next buyer if they need it.
Don't take the closets out and totally, change it in a way that, maybe take the doors off or open the doors or do something where now you had 3 bedrooms and now you have 2, or you had 4 bedrooms and now you have 3, because that will change the price of the house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to say you can't use it as that, but just make sure that it can easily go back to a bedroom, because people can't visualize putting it back if you've changed it.
Yeah, and it just changes how you can actually legally market it.
Yeah.
So that one's it. High-end landscaping projects. Back to what we were talking about before, the extent you really need to do is have, garden beds cleaned out and mulch and all of that. So investing in any kind of huge outdoor spaces, adding tons of new decks or patios or pool, outdoor kitchen. If you're going to enjoy those things, go for it. It sounds wonderful. But as far as getting ready for an upcoming sale in the next year or, 5 years, those are not the things that will bring you a return for the buyers.
Yeah, I would do things like trim your trees away from your house and, make sure that there's not dead plants or overgrown plants, and just have it look clean and tidy. That's probably where I would stop at landscaping, honestly. If you have a deck that is dangerous because it needs to be replaced, that's different. So then that's something that you need to, look into, if the railing is loose or those kind of things.
Yeah.
But not just like, hey, we should just add this extra paver patio, or we should add, whatever, this whole wall around the front, or any kind of things like that. Same with pools, and this is regional dependent, right? So some areas pools they're almost expected in some areas, right? Our area is it's kind of like, it's nice if you have one. It's may decrease your buyer pool for some people. They don't want a pool if they have little kids. Sometimes people get nervous about that, or if they're past a place where they don't want to take care of a pool. Some people really want a pool, and so it's kind of like a neutral for us in our area in the Midwest. Other areas may be different, but I still don't feel like necessarily putting one in to sell your property is probably the best idea.
Correct. And then the last one is just highly personalized remodels. If you're redoing bathrooms or, any area and you're choosing really distinctive tile or colors, surfaces, if you're doing that with the intent of, I love this and it's my home and I'm going to enjoy it, I am all for that. Go for it. If you're doing it as part of a plan to sell, stick with the neutrals, or, maybe, absolutely consult first and see if it's a necessary upgrade.
Do it at the next house, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
Carpet, you also same neutral colors of carpet. Back in the day we had lots of pinks and blues and mauves and burgundies and, all those kind of colors, greens. Those aren't currently in. And so if you're going to replace the carpet, pick something very neutral right now. So
yeah, neutral. And if you're replacing more than one area, the less flooring types you have in a house, the better. The less jarring it is to transition between different types. So if you're replacing multiple things at once, choose something that will work in all of them.
Yeah. Something I think we didn't talk about when we were talking about things you should be looking at was your HVAC and your window, like the big stuff. I think we didn't talk about
the
that.
Mechanicals.
Yeah. So roofs, if it's been 15 years, you might need to have the roof looked at to see what's going to happen there. If a roof is really at the end of its life, sometimes you can't get a mortgage on it. So, roofs are maintenance. That's back to, is it deferred maintenance or not? And so it is what it is, I guess is what I'm going to say, right?
Yeah.
If it needs help, if it needs replaced, then that's what needs to happen. But we don't want to figure that out once we're under contract and now it's a big deal and we're trying to figure out what to do with it. So I would take a look at that. Same with your HVAC and your water heater. I'm not saying replace things that aren't broken. I'm saying, especially with your HVAC, I would have a company come out and service it, make sure that it's all in good working order, and they will put little stickers on there that they've been there to service it, and that I think gives people peace of mind and gives inspectors peace of mind that somebody has just recently been there, done the service on it. It's all cleaned, out and whatnot. If you have dirty filters and things like that, when they come to do the inspections, people get really worried that the HVAC system hasn't been taken care of and isn't going to work. So, and as you own a home, if you have them come out every 6 months and service it, it will honestly make it last so much longer. So I think people think, that's not important, but it really is. It really will make your system last longer and give people more peace of mind as you're living through it. But even if you haven't done that and that ship has sailed, I would have them come out and look at it and put that sticker on there showing that they have looked at it and they feel like it's all good. Windows, if I would probably not replace the windows. You are definitely not going to get 100% back on the windows, even if they need to be replaced. That is something that I would probably let the next people do.
Yeah, I think it's all about that expectation, and we talked about that in our recent episode about whether our houses have become a burden to us and how to tell that. All of these big mechanicals have that lifespan, and they're just going to cycle through depending on how long you lived there, 2, 3, 4 times.
Yeah.
That you'll have to do that. And so just make that part of the strategy. It doesn't all necessarily need to be done before you sell, but that expectation of where am I at in the life cycle of this, and do I need to expect to address that in the price I get for the home, or what's asked for in inspections, and just being aware of that full strategy of where it's at.
Back to windows. If they're leaking or if it's wood rotted or they're broken, then you do have to replace them. So when I was saying don't replace them, I'm saying don't look at them and think, oh, those don't have the best,
they're just old.
Yeah, they're old, and air quality,
the drafts
can come through them or whatever. So I should replace them. That's when it's no. If they're leaking, if the wood is rotted, then, or if they're cracked, then you do have to replace them. So again, not just they're old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Some free or almost free things that you can do if you're DIY or easily, can hire someone. This is on that handyman list. Some things to think about if you are, doing this reality check to get ready to sell. Decluttering and pre-packing. Gosh, we have so many episodes on tips for this. But if you're getting ready to sell, just part of that, cleaning, get started on that. It can make your rooms look larger, and people will be focusing on the house, not your stuff.
Yeah, you're selling space, and when you have less in there, it seems like the space is bigger. And when you are looking through the eye of a camera, taking pictures of properties, the more stuff that's in the house, the harder it is to see the room, and the more your eye just goes all over the place and you just don't know what to focus on, it looks different through the eye of a camera in pictures than it looks in real life. So for example, like we want not a lot of things out when we do our listings and when we have people take pictures of their house. So even to the point where I don't want soap on the counters in the bathrooms, because that looks weird in a picture. You just want it to be very, very clean and simple. Yeah. Now, when you go to have people come look at the property, totally fine to have soap because it doesn't seem weird at all. It's so in pictures, it's different. And so when you start to get your house ready, you're really getting it ready for the pictures, which is a different level of, decluttering.
Madness.
Yeah. 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 Because think about that. I mean, you don't look at magazine photos of, a pretty house and see their, Dial soap container, on the sink. Like there is no picture of any magazine that has soap on the counter.
Correct.
So.
Yes. So deep cleaning goes right along with that. The more, it can be spotless, fresh scents, getting rid of odors and dust bunnies and all of those things, baseboards, clean, ceiling fans, the grout, that is something to definitely invest in. Taking a look at your furniture arrangement, either reducing some of the furniture early or, does this make it easy to walk through, not necessarily the way it worked best for when I'm living here, but making sure the pathways are clear and you're not, knocking knees on the coffee table to get from the bedroom to the kitchen and those type of things.
I think the big one for me I see the most is that you have the couch like across the opening of the family room because it faces the TV or whatnot. And it's fine to do that when you're living there and it might be like an L-shaped couch or it might just be a couch with some chairs. But if you move it to the wall, then it just opens up that whole space and makes it really feel like it's so much bigger. And so it doesn't even need to be different furniture. Sometimes it just needs to be in a different configuration, which might not be the best for TV watching, but we're selling the house. We're not watching. You might have to just, let it go for a little bit and have it be not quite as convenient.
Yeah, reduce a chair or two and just make it easy to walk around and have people envision how much space it has. Lighting, this is a big one.
It
That's
really
pretty
is.
Simple. Making sure your light bulb, the tone's not the right word, the color, the tone matches throughout the house. Warmer lights versus cooler lights. There's so many different varieties. But whatever you have, go with it. Have it match. Have it be there.
And bright.
Bright and, light bulbs working in all the lights. If you have to have someone, come to, a can light that you can't reach that you haven't replaced in 10 years because you can't reach it. Now's the time, get all those light bulbs in the chandeliers working. Bathroom, have good lighting for the mirrors. Just replace all those bulbs with the right wattage. I'd have to do some more research on all. There's so many choices, but just having that clean, bright feeling and the switches, turning on the light when you walk in a room.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Light makes a huge difference. And it is so irritating to me when you have light, the bathroom light and there's 2 or 3 light bulbs and like 2 are one color and 1 is another color. Like it's just super off-putting, and that's annoying because they all work, but you still have to like replace them with the same package so that they all look the same.
Yeah, replace them all at once.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if something's wrong with the doorknob or there's, big patches of, some, like you see dirt somewhere, I would, the magic eraser is actually magic. So I would try that, so, if there's scuffs or something before you even repaint like a whole wall. Be careful because you can take a bunch of the paint off. But if you just do that gently, sometimes that can make the difference, or Clorox spray or something like that, where you don't have to repaint the whole thing if there's some dirt from little hands or something like that.
Well, even, going in and out of your house, and we just get a different, blinders on our eyes of how we see our own house. And if you, kind of come in and shut the door with your hand, you're just going to have those fingerprints in that same pattern, and you don't see it when you're living there.
Right.
So trying to go through with those different eyes and just wipe that stuff down makes a big difference.
Right. So yeah, if you have questions, you need to just reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you about your own specific property. If you need an agent, we can help you with that. So again, downsizingroadmap.com. Reach out to us, and we're happy to help.
Yeah, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.